Attorneys in the Conrad Murray trial getting ready to present their closing arguments to the jury tonight. Hal Eisner and his legal experts will tell you what to expect when court resumes tomorrow morning. Also, Attorney Decio Rangel is here in studio. He'll preview the closing arguments and will also look back on key moments during the trial. Joining us now is Attorney Decio Rangel. I'd say Friday. What do you say? I think this is going to be a quick verdict. I really do.
It's really hard to tell. I mean, we never know what's going through a jury's mind.
I'm basing that on years of legal experience, right?
Yeah.
Are you now?
It's just kind of the feeling that you get after watching the prosecution put on a really stellar case.
You know, a lot of times what happens when a jury gets a case, they're just aching to go in there and start talking about the case. A lot of times they've already made up their mind. Closing arguments a lot of times can be helpful for a jury, but the reality is they've been looking at the evidence, they've been considering the evidence, whether they've been talking about it or not. And once they go into that jury room, they have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do.
Talk to me about closing arguments. So they start tomorrow. How long do they go? Is it a formula for that?
There is a formula for that. First of all, there is a procedure. The first part of the procedure is the prosecution goes first. The defense gets to go after them, and then the prosecution rebuts what the defense comes up with in their argument. The key to closing arguments is you really just want to communicate. You want to look into the jury's eyes and really tell them what you think and the way they should view this particular case and the evidence.
Do you bring up props and evidence like we saw throughout the trial?
Show and tell is very effective. Yeah. I mean, I think if you show pictures, and I know if you show evidence that's tangible evidence that they can actually remember, it's easier for them to remember that and easier for them to bring that into the jury room psychologically and use that to sway maybe another juror that doesn't feel the same way as they do. There's
so many memorable moments, and one of the things in closing arguments that you like, it's sort of like a review. Let's go back now and take a look at some of the moments in the trial, and the attorneys kind of go step by step through what they think are the most important points in that process, right?
That is right. When a jury gets a case and makes a decision, a lot of times they want to hang their hat on a piece of evidence or one particular part of a case. An attorney wants to point out that piece of evidence that they should emphasize. And so not only is it for them to view the entire evidence as a whole, but they want to give them that piece that they can hang their hat on and to vote their way. Also, I think it's very important in closing arguments to be emotional and to create emotion in the jury. Jurors vote with their heart as much as anything else.
We have the luxury of looking back at key pieces of testimony, re-racking the tape. Can they show testimony that has already happened in court?
They cannot show actual video testimony. However, the jury can ask for readback. So if there's a piece of evidence or something that somebody said they don't remember or they want clarification on, they can ask the court reporter to actually read back that testimony. And that could take place in the actual courtroom, or sometimes the court reporter actually goes into the jury room and reads it back to them in the jury room.
Well, we don't have a court reporter here with a readback, but we do have the luxury of video.
Okay,
so let's take a look at Alberto Alvarez, who, of course, testified about what his role was in this case and as a security guard. Let's listen.
Great.
I came into the room. He said, Alberto, hurry, we have to get him to a hospital. We have to get an ambulance. When he said that, I was walking towards the bed, and I was reaching for my phone in my pocket. And as I was doing that, Prince and Paris came behind me. Paris screamed out, "Daddy!" Dr. Conrad Murray said, "Hurry! Don't let them see their dad like this. Don't let them see their dad like this." And I proceeded to turn around to the children and kind of ushered them out and said, "Kids, don't worry. We'll take care of it. Everything is going to be okay." And I asked Dr. Conrad Murray what happened, and he said he had a reaction. He had a bad reaction. He reached over and grabbed a handful of vials, and then he reached out to me and said, "Here, put these in a bag."
He really painted a picture of the frantic scene that afternoon. He stands out to you. Why?
He stands out to me because it shows the reaction of Dr. Murray. A doctor in that particular situation, in fact, anybody in that particular situation, the first thing that they're going to do is try to take care of the person who is fallen ill, who's had a bad reaction, as Mr. Alvarez said. But what really stands out to me is Dr. Murray's concern was primarily for himself And that's what it tends to show to me.
You mean the cleaning up the vials?
The cleaning up the vials,
But didn't
correct.
the defense bring out, they said Mr. Alvarez did not tell that to police initially, that once the trial started happening, that's when you heard about that?
Well, during the initial investigation, basically what happens in an initial investigation is the police come out there. There's somebody writing a report. One of the officers that just comes out in the patrol car. Later on, detectives expand on that particular evidence or that particular testimony or those statements. So it really depends on whether he said nothing happened at all, or he expanded on it saying, well, he started cleaning things up, and maybe he just didn't understand the significance of it at the time. That's also another possibility.
Yeah, that was very powerful when he held out his hand and said, "Here, take care of these." That's a picture that will stick with the jury, won't it?
Absolutely. He's more concerned with getting rid of the propofol than he is taking care of Mr. Jackson.
All right, contrast that, excuse me, because that witness was very emotional, almost in tears there. Then you have Alon Steinberg, who's a cardiologist, a peer to Dr. Murray, who really said, you didn't practice common procedure at all. He really blasted him. It was a very popular witness by all our analysts.
Yeah.
Now, the first extreme departure or evidence of gross negligence you noted was that propofol was not medically indicated. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Giving someone propofol in someone's home, unmonitored, without the proper equipment, medical personnel or backup, was also an extreme deviation from the standard of care. The next thing, which is probably the most important, is a way to summon for help.
Okay, the one thing that stands out to me is what he said. It's like leaving a baby on a table that could grab a knife. That really stood out to me when he said that as well.
Great imagery there.
Yeah, I think that is great imagery. I think what Dr. Steinberg does for me is he shows very little emotion. He doesn't show any kind of an agenda. He's very straightforward, and he keeps it simple. He tells the jury, look, there's just these few steps. This alone is sufficient to show that there's just gross negligence in this particular case. And giving an imagery, as you said, of the baby on the table, and leaving a baby unattended, I think we can connect with that, and we can understand there's a vulnerability there, and we want to take care of that particular child as far as the imagery. And in this case, it would be Michael Jackson.
We heard so much. The term deviation of standard of care came up over and over and over again. And of course, then Dr. Stephen Schaefer, he pounded it home. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
You found this to be, again, an independent, egregious violation that could have resulted in catastrophic outcome, namely death?
This did result in Michael Jackson's death.
Why do you say that?
Because if Dr. Murray had acted as a doctor, the very first time Michael Jackson said, "I need propofol to sleep," a doctor would say, "You have a sleep disorder, and you need to be seen by doctors who specialize in sleep disorders, not by having me show up with propofol." Every night when Michael Jackson was expecting to see Dr. Murray with propofol, Dr. Murray should have said, "Michael Jackson, I am not giving you propofol. I'm not giving you anything. You have a sleep disorder and you need to be evaluated by a sleep doctor." That's what a responsible doctor would do.
Whole different style than Steinberg.
It's a completely different style. He doesn't add that much to what Steinberg said as far as deviating from the standard of care. I don't think there was really any witnesses that said, or there really were no witnesses that said, it's okay to take propofol and administer that in a home. Even Dr. White, the defense witness, said, you can't do that. So Dr. Schaefer just basically was driving home that point in a much more expanded way, some maybe too much, that you should not administer care this way.
Well, plus he had the credential being a propofol expert. He actually wrote the instructions on the package for the medication. So we're going to talk more about that because those were the prosecution witnesses and the witnesses you liked from the defense side when we come back. I'll be right back.
And as I indicated, I've had two lengthy
Objection,
conversations.
motion to strike. Would the court admonish the witness?
His testimony was supposed to turn things around for the defense. Did Dr. White help or hurt Dr. Murray's case? That's next.